(2023) Mother Gaia, third-dimensional planet, ascending into fourth-dimensional collective consciousness. Azure.
Grand Rising Captain.
Can you give me the update on third-dimensional planet Gaia?
Yes, Christo, with pleasure. Gaia 3D currently is under critical condition. It seems there is a large amount of humans that have forgotten who they are, causing confusion, division and war driven by fear.
Thank you, Azure. Before we head down to Gaia, can you give me any information about the 3D world, as it's been a while since I've been there?
Sure, the 3D Gaia. We will face much resistance from negative polarity beings as a dual plane. Karma and Dharma are in effect. There is free will. It will be wise to protect our energy and hold love.
Alright, thank you, Azure. Sounds like we have quite the task at our hands. But that's why we're here, and that's why we've been called upon in the Galactic Federation to go down to planet Gaia, the 3D realm. Alright, Azure, let's get ourselves ready to go. Let's hit the time portal and make sure we land in the present day, Mother Gaia, third dimension. Whoa, oopsies. Yeah, not that one. Okay, let's try this one. Maybe this is the portal. Oh yeah, Azure, this is a little too far in the future. I think we need to kind of go back a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Modern day Earth.
Captain Christo, as we approach, I will prepare our guest suite on the mothership for the souls we hold space for. Oh, and Captain, I will be sure to leave plenty of storage for earthly food delights to take for our travels.
Oh my gosh, Azure, you never fail to make me laugh. You know those earthly delights? That good old food of earth. Absolutely gotta have that food of earth. Thank you, Azure. Alright. It is time. It's time to make our way down to 3D Gaia. To hold space, show love, compassion, bridge the conscious collective, and help provide knowledge and wisdom and tools so fellow souls can remember who they are, live in a unified mind state with a harmonious being, with holistic, conscious practices and tools that they may access efficiently and quantumly.
Welcome aboard. I am Azure. Please get cozy. Grab a tea, snacks or crystals as we prepare for a sacred light conversation. The sacred holding space is down the hall to the left. Wholeness, balanced love.
Oh my god. Oh my, jeez. Azure, are you sure this is where we're supposed to be? To find our next sacred guest for the, holy smokes, the Sacred Light Conversations?
Does a little snow hurt, Captain? Yes, Ohio is where we meet our next sacred guest, Alex Toth. Glad I can be cozy back at our Gaia home space. He'll have food and tea ready for you, Christo.
You sure don't want to make humor out of everything, Azar. But thank you. Glad that we'll have the tea and the food ready. Greatly appreciate that.
Alex Toth out of Ohio is an intrepid entrepreneur in direct sales and marketing with living water. He is fully committed to achieving his own version of success. His passion for leadership is what drives him forward, constantly aspiring to be around other luminaries that inspire others. Spending time with his wife and daughter is precious to him, and he approaches every aspect of his life with the same level of aspiration and dedication. Enjoy this Sacred Light Conversations podcast as Christo and Alex explore the element of water, living water and water health.
Grand day, everybody. Welcome. And it's nice to see you all tap in as we're about to explore another Sacred Light Conversations podcast. And I am your host, Marcus, and I also go by Christolight. And for those of you that know me, I am a Reiki practitioner, a crystal healer. I also teach and help balance the chakras. I do inner child healing and much more. Today on this podcast, we're going to be joined by our special guest, and our special guest is a local friend and brother of mine here in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, and his name is Alex Toth, and he's going to be joining us today to talk about a wonderful, wonderful topic that I see coming to the surface more and more as we continue in this collective conscious journey. And that is the consciousness, as well as having a healthy conscious relationship with the element of water. And along with the element of water being spoken on today, we will also be exploring different types of water, such as structured water and living water. And we'll be able to have the honor and the blessing of being able to hear some experiences, as well as facts, science, and wonderful knowledge behind water and what it's been able to do for Alex as well as those around him. So Alex, welcome to the podcast, and I'm really grateful to have you on and allow you the opportunity to have your first podcast and present this to the collective.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I want to start by thanking you and offering gratitude to all that has brought me here to this point, this moment in time. Just such a beautiful and an ever-changing life that we live in. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful thing to be able to hold space and provide the opportunity for people like yourself to, either have your first opportunity or to continue to have the opportunity to speak on and share beautiful light and knowledge when it comes to being able to live a more conscious, more holistic, and healthy lifestyle. And with that being said, this wonderful element of water. And I know, speaking from you and connecting through the times that we have, you've been able to share a lot of very empowering and very enlightening stories, as well as experiences that have really shaped my perspective and also given me a deeper connective feel for the power and the medicine that water can bring into our lives as human beings. So feel free, if you would like, to touch on what that was like in the beginning for you and how that chemistry and relationship developed between you and living water.
Oh man, it's probably as deep as my childhood, relating to water in so many different ways. I mean, to this day, my favorite thing is to walk in a creek bed and just listen to the sound and upturn rocks and be a little rock hound looking for fossils because there's so many in this area. It's always been very sacred to me, even a birthday in August. So always a pool party for my birthday, right? So there's like this water element following me around. But also I seem to represent that element in my own family. Looking back on it, I was the confidant, the person somebody would go to kind of ground something, right? Or like that's what people validate in these hard conversations. They just need somebody to ground it. And I was the grounder for a lot of those conversations, and then it didn't go past me. So it was just like, I need to speak to somebody. I'm talking to you. Oh, thanks for listening. And then I'm not holding on to it and just letting it flow by and go, because it's just, I happen to be a conduit. And that has really been a theme throughout my life. Even service in the military was an interesting thing because serving over in Iraq, you had a lack of water, so you had to drink bottled water, and you're like, okay, well, thank God we have bottled water, and then treated water, which was really local, super iodized water. And you kind of learn these touch points with what water is. I mean, that iodized water, you guarantee there's some contaminants in that, but they used enough iodine to disinfect it and kill it. But these are touch points on the way people deal with water every day. We pride ourselves in our polished bottled water, and really that should be just like reserved for emergency situation. That's really what that helped me identify. This is an emergency situation of water. This should not be a viable source of filling up somebody else's water and then shipping it and selling it in plastic bottles for so long now. For just way too long. We're in the new generation. We're like down with plastic straws, right? But then we're still heavy consumers on plastic bottles and things like that. So just like getting back to that connection. I mean, in the pioneer days, we'd always have a canteen on us. Like, it was just common, like, oh, you don't have a canteen, you're dead, but today people walk around, they don't drink water all day. It's a really odd statistic to realize that over 90% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. 90% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. You have to understand that goes to a level of almost every disease is a byproduct of dehydration. Because if you don't have hydration, you're going to be inflamed. You don't have the right lubrication for all your processes. Your digestive tract isn't going to do very, very well. So you have all these processed foods that are high in sugars and salts and fats, and we're living a dehydrated life. So what is that doing? It just keeps building up and building up until we get pissed off. Literally, our liver is the anger center, right? And it's like the water, we got to flush it out. But if we keep building up with these toxins, this expresses in our emotional fields. So, tying all those things together, it's that connection to water. And then we see in the world, since the world is our bodies are 70% water optimally around that. And then the earth is 70% water. So you have this direct tie to the cosmos immediately. And taking care of our own bodies, I mean, we can choose to live like a well-flowing lake, or we could be a stagnant little pond. And that's our bodies. We have an inflow and outflow. And when we don't have that balance, I mean, things just, they don't work out. They're a little harder, let's just say. And we're pushing against the grain more than we should. So then we go to supplements, we go to diagnoses, we go to doctors for pills, and pills just further dehydrate us. And we have to process those. So it's a really fascinating, it's a simple medicine, but it's not an easy concept of water. People get into H2O, and only in the past 10 years have we got into the fourth phase of water. So people are like, oh, 4 phases of water. Everybody knows the third phase, 3 phases, gas, water, or gas, solid, liquid. And then the fourth they discovered over 10 years ago is crystalline. And once we understand that water has the ability to be in a crystalline form, then we can relate it to quartz. And then Matsuru Emoto did a lot of research on the memory of water and the messages that water carries. And so if you can program a quartz and literally play a movie off of quartz, now you have a liquid crystal of water within an its optimal structure, in its optimal structure, it's a hexagonal shape. So that is like a perfect programmable shape to then give healing intentions, or even help structure your own body by bringing in these good structures of stuff. Like we hold down crystals and like, oh, this is a great vibration. But literally, since water is a liquid crystal, it can gain knowledge, lose knowledge, gain knowledge, lose knowledge. So we're having an issue with our water where it's just getting abused, like constantly abused. And we can see that in the health of our waterways. Mainly pollution.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing all that. And a lot of that makes sense, especially when you think of how around 90% of Americans are dehydrated, and you just think of like the importance of being hydrated and what that does for our being, such as lubrication, helping with like oxygen levels, and being able to stream and release like bacteria and other things that are building up within our being. It makes a lot of sense why you get like tension headaches, your muscles start tightening up and things like that because of not having that lubrication from water. And I've actually had a couple of cases where I would have a headache, or I'd have some tension in my forehead or in my head area, and then literally I would just down like 2 to 3 cups of water, and then as soon as I would get down that 2 to 3 cups of water, literally the tension would be gone. And that's all it took. That's all it was.
It's a very fine imbalance, or balance, whatever you want to call it, for your body. So when we're born, we're about 90% water. So like this fetus, right? 90% water. We're like born out of this water world. Our mother's womb is replenishing its alkaline water every like 2 hours. And you're like, my God, the women's body's living miracle. It's the cradle of the universe, all that stuff. And like, how is this possible? But as we're 90% water, we're born, and we go to 70%, we kind of even off there. But as we get older, as we age, we take more medications and eat more processed food, blah, blah, blah. Typically, well, it's the running of today, our generation is making these changes of trajectory. But we lose touch with actually our hydration levels. So there's hunger and there's hydration. And a lot of us are stuck in this snacking. Like, oh, but really your body's saying, hey, I'm really thirsty. but then you mistaken that for a hunger trigger. And so when we get caught in that, this is my hunger trigger, I need to snack, you're even further distancing yourself away from that hydration regulation. You're losing touch with yourself, literally. And then people are like, oh, why am I yawning at 2 or 3 in the afternoon? Well, like, you didn't drink enough water, or nutrients. Like, it's not just water, right? It's a lot of different components to holistic health. But water, if you can get 70% of the puzzle down to 30%, hey, I got 30% to work with now. It just makes it takes away huge chunks of other possibilities, especially supplementation. People get so huge into supplementation, they don't even know if their body should need it, but they keep hearing that they should take it. And a lot of the symptoms can literally be alleviated by helping your body circulate better. And what is that? That's exercise and hydration. And then spirituality, for sure. Like, I practice Qigong and Tai Chi, and that has added a whole nother level, because once you recognize your energy body, then you're just like, then it's an exponential healing, because you're tapping into these unforeseen forces that just, like, it gives me tingles. It literally gave me tingles right now that help. My chakras were just like, whoop, because it feels so close. And that's my passion, really, is to get people more in touch with their water. If that's like their pool time, like appreciating that pool, even though it's like super chlorinated or brominated, whatever, get your saltwater pool.
I was gonna say saltwater pool.
Yeah, get your saltwater pool. But like having that appreciation, and we live in, this whole, it's like the Fertile Crescent of water, right? Of America. It's like all this water from Canada, and we're so abundant here that it's so funny when we have so much abundance of something, we lose touch with how special and how precious that is. I mean, you don't have to go far for people not to have water. There's definitely I think it's 2 million Americans. We work with a nonprofit called Dig Deep, and they dig wells and provide running water for people that have never had running water in the United States. And this is mainly in like the Navajo reservations or Appalachian places, like forgotten places of America, that this goes 100%. And 100%, right? 100% of your donations, you got to love those nonprofits that are like matching 100% towards the goal. But
that's amazing.
That's what we need to do. What's that?
Oh, I was saying that's amazing. Do you want to touch on that at all?
Just doing the work to provide people running water, or what do you think?
Just the organization and, any way that people may be able to support.
So aligning with water and finding a nonprofit is really easy. We have 2 our main ones are 3 of them. We have the Jocko Society, we have the Mangrove Project to save shorelines, and then we have Dig Deep. So the Dig Deep is more focused on running water for people. Like, you literally have this 80-year-old Navajo woman that's like brushing her teeth, and she's just like crying because she can use running water, right? Not a bottled water. They would live on 2 bottled waters a day. So 2 bottled waters a day, try to shower in 2 bottled waters a day, right? Or if that, right? And then they would probably reallocate for, young and old and all that stuff, because that's what you have to do in a survival situation. But that's the lost touch. We live, and then we have the Fiji water, right? And that's just my antithesis, right? Because it's a great tasting water, don't get me wrong, but you have such a layer of story behind that. Okay, you got the plastic bottled water, we can identify that, but they are taking water from the Fijians who are super poor and don't have access to that water, because they established a company and started siphoning off that aquifer. And so Fiji water, super awesome water at the source, but now you're paying $10 for a bottle of water that's oppressing the world. It's just so weird. The story behind marketing, and the marketing of bottled water only really came out in the 70s, so much as they bashed tap water. Like the bottled water company, like the whole marketing plan was to bash tap water, which definitely worked, because a lot of people went away from bottled or tap water, And I think we understand the EPA, the levels, the allowable levels, right? There shouldn't be any allowable levels of lead, and then we can get into other fluoride things if you want to on that. But tap water is actually the most regulated water because it's tested over 30 times a month. Bottled water, typically, if it's bottled in that same state, it is never tested. It's not seen by any federal mandate or regulation. It's just simply once it, so if you, a lot of it's bottled in Maine. So if you bottle it in Maine, you sell it in Maine, you don't have to prove that it's not contaminated or up to snuff. So they're literally having pasteurized water, heated up water, and immediately put into plastic bottles. And then we're like educated that, oh, don't leave your bottled water in your car and don't crinkle it. Like it's pasteurized. It's already been filled with hot water. There's already some of those, they're like hormone mimicking chemicals that look exactly like estrogen or testosterone, well, more like estrogen, and they take place in your receptors. So your receptors like this, and those chemicals in the plastic take place of the hormone that should be received by the receptor. So you're actually having a demasculating of our society by drinking out of all these plastics. Or an imbalance of hormones at the very least. And people are going to their doctors like, I'm having hot flashes this, and you're only 30 years old. But like, these are the real repercussions of introducing a petrochemical as the vessel for our drinking water.
Wow, that is some very, very good information to know. Thank you for that.
So I'm going to dial it back a little bit on all that, and I'm going to go into some words of just contemplation about water. It's written by a woman named Rebecca Campbell. And as you listen to this, I want you to imagine, as for me, walking through your creek bed or staring out at the ocean, listening to the sound of a waterfall or the waves crashing against the shore, and feeling these words reverberate. May we hear the song of the ancient ones, imprinted in the waters of the world. Through connecting to the waters, may we attune to the great intelligence of life. May we honor all waters as sacred, both around us and within us. May we protect the sacred waters of the earth so that there is plenty for all, now and forevermore.
Yeah. So it is.
Yes, ripples. I love so much about water. It's just so many analogies you have, and being soft and hard, which I relate to in my qigong practice. But that also is a warrior. I used to serve in the military, as I said, and defining warrior and like these like finite definitions of things, and then just like it's like well, you can have that definition, but this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to move forward with this definition. Just really empowering. We get to do that in today's world. It's our generation's job to do, redefine.
Absolutely. You said you were in the service. How long were you in the service for?
I was in active Army for 2 years, and then reserves for like a year and a half. But yeah, I did everything that you joined the military. I was at basic training, and then straight into basic training, individual training, and then after I was at my station for a month, then I was shipped over to Iraq for the war in 2003. So right in the beginning of all the craziness.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something.
I bet, man. Well, thank you for your courage, and I'm grateful that you're here today.
Yeah, me too. That's probably not the only thing that's threatened my life, but I just have a lot of different experiences, and that's what I get to bring in my leadership. I'm a good resource leader, just like bringing forth things that help, dropping off the BS or dogma, whatever you want to attach to it, and then bringing forth like, hey, this could be helpful to you, and just let it sit there.
Yeah, exactly. Sharing that wisdom.
Yeah, and furthermore, like having a child of 3 years old, and really like the ultimate ego smash is having a child, I would say, in terms of that growth, because there's forced growth, but there's also leaning into the forced growth, and then your child gets to see these human emotions, right? You're like, oh, I'm acting like a butthead, or I'm yelling, or these imbalances that you're showing, but those are anchors, and like, but they overcame it and they came back. They're like, oh, I get angry sometimes, or I get upset some, but then that's okay to express that wave, and that's been really cool to recognize the feminine
absolutely
of that wave.
There's a really good quote by a wonderful man that I've studied throughout my life, and he's like a spirit guide for me, and his name is Bruce Lee, and he has a quote about being like water. And for anybody out there, I definitely recommend, if you like Bruce Lee, or you just like consciousness or like psychological expansive intellect, go to YouTube and type in Bruce Lee water, and you'll find a lot of clips of him sitting, and he's wearing a black outfit, and he's having an interview, and he starts talking about being like water, and talks about how water is able to shift and take different form, and to be able to be adaptable, and he relates that to the human, and forming yourself to be like water mentally. It's a wonderful quote, wonderful quote.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Quote. So Alex, I want to ask you, what was it like for you when you were starting to become aware or become conscious of water, and what was it like for you before transitioning into living water?
I'd say I was always a water drinker. Played sports in high school, grade school, football, 2-a-days, right? You're just like starving of water all the time with those. Loved water. It was my preferred drink. And I had a lot of labor jobs, or like heavy labor jobs. I did carpentry for a while, worked on a farm, where I discovered different kinds of water, and even a biodynamic farmer was talking to me about it, and I was learning about the water biodynamization, and then he was doing his biodynamic farming, and I was like, oh my god, you're helping me geek out on these elemental like vortexes, right? It's all about vortexes, all about the swirl. And so he related to the cow stomach, and I was like, oh yeah, anyways. And just really, I don't know, we went to a festival. It was called Raise Your Vibration Celebration. Great name, right? It was organized by an old friend of ours, Erin Payne, who is not on this earth anymore, but she was a very high vibration person and tried to bring other people around her to that vibration. And there was a friend at the festival from high school. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, providing water. And my wife came over she was curious because she's a big water drinker too. And she's like, you got to try this water. I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay, I'll try the water. So I drank it. I'm like, okay, really easy to drink, nice and light. Doesn't taste like anything, like good water. Shouldn't taste too much like anything. And I was like, okay, this is great water. Well, she said, hey, we can try this water for the next couple of weeks. It's like this structured water, whatever. Give it a try. I'm like, okay, well, if you really want to do this, we'll commit. So every 3 days we would get the water. And on the second week, my wife came up to me and said, it's gone. I was like, what do you mean it's gone? And little did I know that she had been suffering stoically, like just silently, with her ulcerative colitis of 7 years. And she said, no, you don't understand what I was struggling with. Like, I haven't had like a regular person BM, right, in like a long time, and uncomfortable like GI tract issues. And I was like, oh, so it's gone. Like, this is two weeks and you had it for 7 years. It's gone. Okay, whatever. But no, she was dead serious. And then I slowly had some results with like acid reflux. And then I slowly realized that I did a genetic test that actually has a genetic mutation, happens in 40% of the population, with methylation. So I started learning about methylation. What is methylation? And methylation is the final process of detoxification. So your body's getting rid of toxins, processing it, but right at the end, if it can't methylate, it builds up in your liver, typically. So you have type 1, type 2 diabetes, you have depression, anxiety is all part of these because your body's building up these toxins. Well, thank God I came across some water that helps to detoxify you more. And so with this water being smaller in structure, so more hexagonal shape, our body absorbs it easier, and it also has a negative charge to it. So you're replenishing your negative ions in your body at the same time as providing the universal solvent for nutrients into the cell, and then toxins flushed out of the cell. And so what I was finding, and what my wife did, she just hydrated her gut. She just started hydrating her gut to a certain level where it's like, okay. And there's definitely a bit of uncomfortableness when you start rehydrating something. You're taking a raisin, you're turning it back into a grape. So for the first day, she's like, oh, I kind of feel bad. But the next day she was like releasing, right? Releasing. And then after the first week, she's like, I have normal poops. Like, oh my God. Like, and that's just such a magical thing to me, because I am in love with the simple things, like so in love with the simple things. And a lot of like old masters of the Renaissance, like they have these very simple answers to like complicated questions. And that's just like Leonardo da Vinci is like huge on that. Like, here's the answer. You're like, yeah, there's more than the surface, but that's a pretty good answer. So there's like these levels of things like that can't just be the water, can't just be the water, can't just be the water. It was the water. She didn't change anything else, but then that was the catalyst to change the food, to exercise, because if you're losing weight and you're feeling better, I mean, that ulcerative colitis and itises of any kind really slow down people, and they're super common today. So you just never know what people are going through. So yeah, we had results from that in her GI tract, and I had like acid reflux went away within a few months for me, which I had for 12 years. I was taking omeprazole after military service for 12 years, which actually causes heart issues. If you take it for a long bit of time, it's only meant for a short bit of time. So I really don't know what it has saved me, but I got off all medications, just started hydrating better and putting more focus to my body, and the water helped me do that. So yeah, it was just basically a friend that I knew from high school that offered the water. Once Kat had those results, I'm like, all right, we got a purchase to make. And so we made that purchase, and we haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's truly phenomenal to really be able to reflect on how structured or living water has been able to do that for you. And not just you, but for your wife also. And what a testimony. Like, what a testimony you both are for what this kind of water can do for our being. It's truly incredible. That's it makes you think a little differently about, you know, what we have at our hands and the way that we're utilizing it, and how we can kind of like alter and slightly, you know, think a little bit differently about our relationship with things like water that we have such an abundance of, and is literally within almost anything. It's really incredible how we can have that relationship with it, to where, you know, we're restructuring it, and it's you know, taking upon information and helping heal and medicinalize the being. It is so phenomenal.
It's a magical element. It really is, because it just is. Like, water is so is, right? It just is. So I say it, but like, so you're talking about restructuring, right? And like, oh, why are we restructuring water? Well, the original structured water is coming off of glacial mountain streams, you know, twirling and tumbling through these rocks and minerals and feeling the charge of the earth. And so people are like, oh, restructure, why do we need restructure? Why using electricity and all these things? It's because it's lost that structure. It's so far from that mountaintop that, you know, like the Mongolians are drinking, or, you know, like the high mountain people are like living to 120 years relatively disease free. And the research for this technology came from them researching those streams. They're like, okay, good diet, exercise, outside. What's the linking connection to all these like mountainous places? There's one in like Lourdes, France. Well, they found it was like the healing water. So the waters had certain properties, that they were more alkaline because of the minerals in the water, and it was charged, and it was negatively charged, and they were smaller in size. So these people were getting the most pristine water, structured water that comes naturally out of Earth. Now, granted, we can't all have access to that, so that's where the Russian and Japanese scientists came up with this ionized water, or electrolyzed reduced water, if you want to go into the medical whole of all that stuff. And we're able to put it basically in a box that can hook up to your tap, and then you run it through, it filters it, and then restructures it, and comes out the other side just drinking water, or cleaning water, or degreasing water. Like, literally, people focus on the drinking, the living water, the structured water, but you can also structure water for a disinfectant. You can make a 2.5 pH to kill bacterias, and the technology actually was tried and tested in hospitals in Japan for the first 20 years of its existence. So you got all this efficacy behind this device, where the Japanese really care for those long-term environmental decisions, because living on an island, you have to make decisions where you can't have a lot of waste. You can't hide it anywhere. So utilizing water instead of creating chemicals to disinfect was a huge technology that they fully just embraced and took over. In fact, the largest doctor organization, it's like the Geriatric Association of Japanese Doctors, which is like 15,000 doctors. They all had to agree that ionized water was the best for our bodies. And so the research and a lot of the forefront of the stuff has come out of the Asian countries, and even in Europe and stuff, these quick adoptions of something that really is serving humanity, instead of this resistance against like, well, I'm a doctor and I haven't heard of that, right? You got this school of thought that's like, well, okay, do you like to be at the top of your field? Well, you got to continuously learn. So there's been kind of this disconnect in between No, this is tried and true, like 60-year-old technology and company versus, the health carousel, I call it. You know, like this is how we were taught, and I need to recommend this because I get paid for this. And I went to the doctor one time. I was like, I don't want anything. He's like, okay, I don't have to see you for 2 years. Like, okay, because I didn't ask for anything, right? I'm not giving him outlets for his pay, and it was just so interesting. But yeah, taking back the power in the simple things.
Yeah, it's huge, you know, and it's part of why I love what I do, is helping people take back their power in the simple things. You know, there's so much, you know, complexity and abstract concepts behind, you know, healing and spirituality and things like that. But then there's also, you know, there's a simplicity to it as well. There is a simple order behind our beings and creation from, you know, the creator or source, whatever you'd like to call it, that we can tap into. And we can tap into that simplicity field and really be able to bring harmonization and bring peace to our being. The more we can tap into simplistic ideals and simplistic ways of being, and it's done wonders for me. I know that for sure. You know, simplicity as in, for example, the only thing I drink is water or hot tea, and you know, I try to stay light, mainly plant-based, and I just try to, you know, stick with my routines of meditation and yoga, and then allowing myself to kind of unfold with the rest of my space and the rest of my day, to where I'm not forcing things really in my life. I'm just kind of taking care of my being and making sure that I'm as balanced as I can be, and then letting things attract to me and kind of happen as I go. And it's been a wonderful change for my being. I used to deal with a lot of anger, frustration, resistance, as well as you know, forcing of feeling like I needed to be validated and all these different things. And the more that I just came into bringing back the simplicity of focusing on my health and focusing on the ways that I can be my best self throughout the day and throughout night, and everything. But I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
And so this first one's kind of like a two-part question. First question is, what are your top waters that you would recommend for anybody out there that's looking for, you know, healthy living water? It can be, you know, like, it can be different systems that you like to use. It could be certain companies that they could buy from, or something that they could do at home within their own. I know, for example, myself, for about 4 years now, I've been making at-home shungite water, which is my at-home water system is shungite. So I'm curious, what are your top recommendations or your top favorites when it comes to healthy living water?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's more and more coming out all the time, because I think you have a market of health that people are confused enough about to buy anything. And that's, you know, if that makes sense. But so with structured water, gosh, man, there's so many ways to go about structured water. The simplest way to get structured water is literally to pray or give intentions to your water. And it helps to swirl it. It helps to give it movement. I've seen some people take two 2-liters and put and like collar them together and then swirl it so that it has a vortex. And you can also put a magnet around the neck of that. Matsuru Emoto was all about putting prayers and intentions to it. So his directions are basically love and gratitude are the highest vibrations that can be programmed to water, or so it's been researched. And so he will literally sit there with the cup in his hand and say, love and gratitude, love and gratitude, love and gratitude. And he's direct. So there's direction, there's intention. You're holding that pure thought in your mind to direct towards this vessel of water. And that water structure will change with your vibrations and with your intentions. And then it becomes your medicine. Yes, water is good, it's hydrating, but there's something lost in the water that comes straight out of the tap. And the right angled pipes, they run perpendicular or parallel to sewage lines, high powered lines. So if you're talking about an element that picks up memory, you have all these memories of being abused until it gets out that tap. And with those prayers, you can give back that structure. Now they've developed, I mean, water blessings are some of the oldest blessings in the world are water blessings, right? You know, like we do rain dances, whatever, but like these are water blessings, you know, these are things that we thank you for myself. Thank you for providing me with life. The shungite water I love because you can use, because it's using vibration, it's vibrational medicine. You can use electromagnetical ones, which, you know, ionizers use electricity to use that charge, to get that charge. Other waters, I mean, spring water is a tough, slippery slope. People love their spring water, and I don't want to bash spring water, but a lot of the springs are losing their health. They're losing their charge. They're actually contaminated many times. And as much as I really want my prayers to negate contaminants, we still live in this physical world, and our body will have to process those things. So if you're getting from a spring, just make sure you're filtering it on top of that spring, and understand that a spring is only as good as the health of that spring. And so that's the negative charge, and that's the tumbling. And so you have the tumbling and swirling, but now you have agriculture around it, leaching in potentially, chlorophylls, chloroform and all that stuff into your water, which just waterborne illness type of stuff.
So you gotta consider the soils and the way that the soil is nowadays in a lot of areas as well.
Yeah, it's like life supports life, and if you don't have life around life, then that life that's not surrounded by other life, it's just like, it's really dampened, but water still exists. It will always exist. Other devices, charging center, you could literally draw sacred geometry or print something out on a coaster and put your water on it and charge it that way. So you got some like sacred geometry vibrations getting in there. So really it's all about vibrations. The prayers, the shungite.
You use orgonite too.
Orgonite, it's neutralized, and potentially some of the radiation that's in your water. Oh, that's a beautiful mandala.
So this orgonite piece that I have here is made by a good brother of mine in Canada. And shout out to Golden Sun Oregon on the Instagram for anybody out there.
Our process here at Golden Sun Oregon, our dielectric resin temperature, leveling, and measurement is key. We use metals to attract and repel energy, and the crystals are harmonized. Top quality ingredients, high standards, and intense care goes into each one. Place them by Wi-Fi routers, cell phones, food, and your bed. Drop link in bio.
He makes orgonite pyramids, and he has a degree in engineering, so he puts an engineering mind to his creations. On the bottom here, he put a toroidal field, and along with that, it has a tensor ring, which is copper ring. And what you can do is you can use this as a charging plate. So like you can put a cup of water on here and leave it on there for like 30 seconds, a minute, and it'll literally bring electrical energy and charges to your water. So I just wanted to show this as a prime example for people as well.
Yes, and as you go down the journey of this research into structured water, you have to bring it back to like fruits and vegetables and like assimilation of water into fruits and vegetables, because those are like, we thrive on fresh fruits and vegetables. Why? Well, there's all these minerals in there, the fiber, but there's also all this structured water that helps our body do the process it needs to do. And it's so unique, like in that cucumber, it's 99% water. It's full of structured water. And even the new points of like watermelon, right, being structured water and alkaline water. These are huge touch points that our ancestors have always known. We just now have books to confirm that that's what we're supposed to do. So the charging is amazing. I think it can be done in so many different ways. Now, the system that we kind of came across beyond all that stuff, because the first one I came across was literally holy water, right? That's the first structured water most of us know of, holy water. So what is holy water? It's literally priests or pastors, whatever, praying upon water so that when they do the anointment, it has a special significance, or the Vatican or whatever. So I just want to bring that perspective. A lot of people like, oh, this structured water is kind of new or whatever. And like, no, this is an ancient ceremony that's still being done, just not, people aren't loud with it, right? Like, oh, you might think I'm crazy if I'm doing this. Like, no, you're crazy if you're not doing it of sorts. Well, I don't want to call anybody crazy, but so the system we found,
know that anybody is crazy out there in the world. You are all loved.
Yes, that's right. Retract us. Yeah, I'm still crossing generational definitions and stuff. But the system we found basically was by a company called Enagic. They started back in the 50s and 60s in Japan. They started off as a medical device manufacturer, and they only sold to hospitals for the first 20 years of their existence. They found a way to create structured water in a free flowing way. So they take like platinum and titanium, medical grade plates that are negative and positive. They filter the water first, and then the water, does its swirl as it would swirl right over those plates of a negative and a positive charge. And then the drinking water is a negative charged water. People often mistaken it with alkaline water, but this is alkalized water. So alkaline water is something that has been chemically altered to be a higher pH. I can add baking soda to any water and raise the pH of water. That's what alkaline water is. But with these systems, with electrolysis, the electricity it puts over the water, it basically restructures the water and it creates a negative charge of a hydrogen. So you're having this hydrogen-rich pH, potential of hydrogen-rich water, negatively charged hydrogen-rich water. So that is a very living component. That's why I call living water, and basically disassociates after like 3 to 5 days. So you have a natural process, you ingest it, you get the therapy, which now like hyperbolic chambers with hydrogen therapy is a huge thing. People pay thousands for these techniques, but all I'm doing is zapping my water, to say it plainly, and getting my free hydrogen out of that, and my body recognizes that as the most powerful antioxidant. So we deal in a world of negative and positive. The positive, it can be oxidative, and the negative can be antioxidant. So if I'm taking in all these negative ions, I'm negating that oxidation potential. So my skin looks really good at 41, right? It's just like a small example of, thanks. And like regular BMs and like recovery from workouts, or when I was working on the farm, I sweat more efficiently. It's like these weird touch points with understanding your hydration. And I didn't understand any of that, chugging a gallon of tap water, because I was a garden hose guy. I got to admit, like I was totally like garden hose guy, but I loved water. I didn't know anything better. And once I knew better, the whole game changed. So I like the free-flowing ionizer systems, because other ones are like charging stations, or you're limited by how much. But this one you can cook with, you can clean with. There's a beauty water, basically. So I have like a big testimonial, and hopefully people aren't queasy, but I burnt my hand really bad. So this happened Christmas Eve. All right, Christmas Eve. This would have been an emergency trip to the emergency room, $1,500 for emergency trip, and then whatever process, whatever. But after I burned it, the worst burn I've ever had, I stuck it in the beauty water, the 6.0 pH, and it's a slightly positive because it is what our skin pH wants to be. So I was able to stop the burning by putting my hand into this water and keep replenishing it. And then the next day, by the time it stopped burning, I was able to use the different waters to treat it and disinfect it from getting infected. And I've kept it nice and hydrated with the charge that my skin needs. So that's like the level that I like the ionizers versus the charging pitchers or stations or little bits, because it becomes literally a place of wellness. I go, hey, I burned myself. What is this? I got a cut. What did I do this? My skin, my baby has a staph infection on their diaper line. What do I do? So like I've been able to actually reclaim a lot of my power from running to the hospital or like being upset with like the littlest little thing. Not that I always have been, but those are huge points. It's not just your drinking water, it ties into all other things. I use it in a neti pot too, to take care of my sinuses when they get, stuffed up and stuff too. So that's really why I get passionate about this work. It's literally, I am disrupting chemical production. I'm disrupting beauty chemicals and stuff. I'm not saying to get rid of your beauty regimen. You just have to add a foundation of hydration first before slapping on whatever that topical cream is. So it's like the true foundation of beauty is water, is hydration. And those ionizers have really, and then also, as part of my my business. Now I get to impact everybody around the world. So I get to touch families all around the world and make a generational shift. People, like literally families with chronic like constipation, they're not constipated anymore. So they just changed their water, and now they're not. So like that's prostate cancer in the future to me. Like I don't want to make any medical claims or something like that, but I find it very passionate to give somebody a simple change. And when they make that simple change, because they love water anyways, or I turn older guys into water drinkers after they start drinking the water. They see an ease. They're just happier people. Like I think that's the basics, the best testimonial I can give. They're just happier, healthier, hydrated, happier people.
That's wonderful. Like, wow, to be able to provide something so essential and so simple into people's lives, bring a healing benefit, is such a beautiful thing. Because there's a lot of complex ways, and there's a lot of required things and required steps to a lot of different healing practices and healing modalities. But with this, it's truly amazing that it's just simply changing the water that you're ingesting and how much you're frequently ingesting the water, and for it to just be able to basically go in and restructure your being into a balanced state. It's such a medicine and beautiful gift we have here.
I feel really privileged to be involved with it for so long. I've had my ups and downs, and I tell you what, water is an emotional element. So like, if you get involved with water, just understand there could be things like, whoa, what was that? Where did that come from? And you just process it, right? You just process it. But that is the beautiful thing about water. It can be shaped and reshaped and go around and flow. And, hey, there's a boulder. I don't care. I'm water, right? It's just like, I'll wear it away or something, this element of like driving force that I believe water has. And it's been echoed into my life and my own personal healing. I think when you take on certain projects, especially maybe elemental or like things that elevate other people, you really, I don't want to call it test it. It makes you more aware. And when you're more aware, things come to you. They're like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? And then you're just like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah. And then at one time, okay, I don't want to do that. I'll reach. And then it's like the step back. But then you need that step back because maybe you're growing too fast or you just weren't ready for that bit of information. And that's been a huge force to just keep showing up. Because I did early on in the business, I was like, I want to be more like water. Like the element of water, and then like understanding what water is. I got like a children's book on like the water cycle, right? I was just like geeking out of like, I haven't looked at this since grade school, and like, what's the water cycle of water, Yeah. And so it just helped me relate to more in humanity, and that connection is so strong. Like that, the simple 8 lines that I read about water. People, you can just feel yourself sink into almost a pool of water and just really sit there, like, because it's our womb. It literally is like, we're not separate. We're not ever separate from it. So that has made it very a big prolific journey, but it also has made the bumps, so to speak.
I love it. Thank you so much for your articulations.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious, like, there's a lot of tension, and I also thought about this as well with the shungite water and how like, shungite water is used in Russia and like their water systems and stuff. Have you ever thought about like anything of how we could bring support or bring a change to places like Flint, Michigan here in the United States?
Flint, Michigan's a tough one. It's it's like just bureaucracy deciding who's most important, and it's like really that's a really tough thing to work against. So that I tie into our nonprofits. That's why I go back to Mangrove Project and Jacques Cousteau Society and Dig Deep, because these people are at the forefront of like making that change. Getting involved with like even your local like water, like river guardians or water guardians. There's always some local group that cares about the waterways. I know in Cincinnati, we had a group that was trying to prevent fracking, and I think they did prevent the fracking, but then they were going to try to put a facility right along the Ohio River with like radioactive material they're going to bury underneath the river and stuff like that. And they were going to put up a plant, and it was like a plant that was from Korea that was going to produce these plastic pellets. Like, I wouldn't have known about any of that unless I was talking with these people that really had the pulse on the water situation there.
Wow.
The train spill, I mean, I really thought I was in a really safe area, like for water, like clean water, and then the train spill happened in northern in Palestine, and just like I got more filters. I was like, I was just like at this scare. It's just so strange. I think the best thing you can do is really, it's just to tie into people that care about water and the rights of water. So right now, a big movement is to actually give personal rights, like a business has its own entity, has its own rights. So they're trying to get rivers and lakes and trying to pass legislation where they're actually giving the river its own identity to have its own rights. So that's probably the biggest movement you can probably be involved in. I forget the woman's name, but like that is the biggest movement of today. That's probably the best thing we can do, is create individual rights for bodies of water.
Okay.
That's that, and that shows, because the government will follow enough people what they're saying. Like, hey, this is what we want. Okay, this is what we want. Well, everybody's saying, hey, we want these bodies of water to have their own rights, and things are going to change. Regulations are going to have to change, because this pollution it'll have to be sorted, or
It's trouble for all of us.
Trouble for all of us. That's right. Yeah, this is all connected. And then we haven't even talked about the great garbage patches all around the world. It's just floating there, its own island of plastic that goes nowhere. And it's our own mess. But I firmly believe that we are headed in like one of the most prolific times of change in our history. It's just, it feels like it's speeding up, and it might be, I don't know, but I think it's just like people have to make decisions. You can't be on the fence about too many things. I mean, you can work through your decision, but as my dad would say, shit or get off the pot. It's just kind of like make the decision to make the change and move forward with that passion. That answers.
Agreed, man. We're here for a reason, and we're the ones that are in these living human beings. So without us putting forth our action, our energy and efforts, not too much is going to happen in this physical plane. And if we just sit around thinking it's just all going to change and we're not doing anything about it in our own personal life and letting it ripple out from there, then I don't know what we can really expect other than some of the same results that have gotten us to where we are, with these pollutants and disconnection of the conscious reality of water. But like you said, I see a very beautiful direction that we are in, and more and more of us, like myself and like you, are being voices for the elements, being voices and bridges for people to become aware of the consciousness, the medicine, and the beauty that water brings for our everyday life in so many ways. Yeah, I can't help but be optimistic. I can't help but to be positive and feel uplifted by just hearing about these different ways of water and how open, we're all becoming to exploring. It's a really beautiful thing. As we wrap up, I know we were talking about tap water. Now, my question is really, what should people be looking out for? And are there specific chemicals or things that are found in tap water that people want to try to avoid for their health?
Yeah, when we talk about tap water, it's because there's like government regulation, like EPA regulation and stuff in it. And so you can go to Environmental Working Group, ewg.org, and you can check your zip code and it will tell you exactly what contaminants are in it, if they're allowable levels or not. And know that it's highly regulated. So like, as much as I don't like the EPA's standards on allowable levels of lead, like there's no allowable levels of lead for drinking, but like there has to be weaknesses in the system. It's kind of like the rat poop in the hot dog, right? Like there's allowable levels of stuff, but it's like, we don't want that in there. So with tap water, I highly recommend, my favorite thing to do is literally just to get a filter put on your cold water line underneath your kitchen sink. People have run to Brita pitchers, they run to all these pitchers. These things are a big plastics waste. So and then nobody changes them. So you put them in, you're like, oh, okay, change it in 3 months. Well, 9 months later, you're like, oh, I got nice filtered water. Like nothing in that filter is actually doing anything for you. And there's a lot of plastics waste. There's little cartridges. Actually, over I think 15 years, you're paying like $10,000 in filters for Brita. So it's like a weird small trickle expense, and they don't take out so much. And then Zero Water is taking like a reverse osmosis approach to it, where they're trying to strip all the minerals out of it. Now remember, water for optimal life has to be full of minerals, has to be tumbling around and swirling, and have a charge to it. So that's what we're kind of taking out with a lot of these other processes. Tap water loses a lot of its vitality through the infrastructure.
So reverse osmosis is one of those ways that it strips away the minerals?
Yeah, so reverse osmosis is really interesting because it gained traction by doctors trusting it, because doctors are very clinical. They're like, hey, I want H2O, I want blank H2O. That's what I want. And that's, no contaminants. So yes, you're really limited, you're really getting a lot of those contaminants out, like 99 point whatever. But you're also stripping it of the natural occurring minerals, which makes it water, which makes your body recognize it as being absorbable, because the minerals are part of the way we digest this stuff and assimilate it. So with RO water, you're losing those natural minerals, and sometimes you have remineralizers on it, but it's really just to add calcium, potassium in for the taste. So we don't even know if these are like lab created calcium, potassium things. Like you really have to do your research for the remineralizer after the RO system. And also the RO system is to make 1 gallon of water, it takes about 3 to 4 gallons of wastewater to create that 1 gallon of water. And then you have like maybe a 4-gallon tank underneath your sink. So then you typically only have about 4 gallons, maybe 3.5 available at any time. So it's kind of a finite system. And it requires a lot of maintenance. So you got to make sure to regularly test it to make sure it's not falling apart on the inside, basically. Not saying it's going to fall apart soon, but it's just like it goes to it has a service center, a service timeline. And if you're not paying attention to that membrane that takes out most of the contaminants can develop holes in it. And then you got a quasi RO system. So, a lot of bottled water companies love RO water. So a lot of bottled water is kind of acidic and void of minerals, and they add minerals back in. They're like proprietary blend of minerals, like for taste, and people like Ice Mountain and all that stuff. And it's just a sales job. Like, hey, I'm filtering my water. I'm filtering my tap water, putting it in these fancy plastic bottles, and then you're buying it by the case. And those cases are heavy. Man, you see these little women trying to lift and put it in there, like, this is convenient. Like, no, it's not convenient. So my number one solution for people that want good filtered water is to find a filter, a straight canister filter that you trust, and put it underneath your sink and on your cold water. And then every time you turn on your cold water, it's going to be filtered. Or you can put a separate faucet or something like that. But that is the first standard. You can go whole house filter, which people go for a softener. A softener is not a filter. So if you are ever sold a softener, it's not a filter. It just adds salt to the water, prevents buildup. But reverse osmosis, to me, I've seen so many people that are so acidic. They're huge water drinkers. They're relatively healthy, but they're having these acidic diseases because they're drinking RO water. RO water is called dead water in Japan. It has no swirl, no minerals, and your body, in some cases, your body will have to add minerals to the RO water to then digest it. So what that's doing to your body is taking your minerals from your joints and your bones, calcium, potassium, magnesium, adding it to your RO water that is devoid of minerals, and then able to digest it. So it's a really kind of like
it's like a dehydrating process in itself.
That's right. So I call it like clinical water. The Japanese call it dead water, but it's clean. It's very clean water. I'm not going to argue that it's clean water, but it's not clean and healthy. And that's what we go with. The filtered and ionized water, we go with clean water. We're filtering it, getting contaminants out, and then we're adding its memory, its good charge, its its destiny for health, right? With the ionizer, and then you drink it.
You can use crystals like quartz, rose quartz. You can use like crystal elixir bottles too.
Yes, I've seen bottles that have crystals in the bottom of it. Pretty neat.
Yeah, I got this shungite water bottle here, and inside that little container is some shungite. So yeah, it's also an option as well out there for you guys that like to drink water on the go. You get elixir bottles as well. So final question for you is, what are your top waters to avoid at the store?
Yeah, sure. Gosh, I avoid almost all the waters. That's a difficult question. I really would avoid Fiji. I want to have people avoid Fiji. I know it's but I just hate the story behind it. I really like these Fijians need water, and we're like fancy with our cool looking bottles. All the Kroger water, like this is just filtered tap water. It goes back to having your own filter. Like, you don't cook with bottled water, so if you get your own filter, you can cook with your filtered water. So it's really my avoidance to get rid of any plastic. Like any regular purchase of a single-use plastic is probably my greatest avoidance. If you find a fancy one in a glass bottle, it'll be infinitely that much better, but it's been sitting on the shelf for months. So
yeah,
I don't really have. Yeah, what do you go to? Filter your tap water. I'm going to keep falling back on that.
How do you feel about the alkaline brands, like the alkaline water brands?
Oh, well, okay, that's something to touch on, because the alkaline water tap water is alkaline water. It's federally mandated to be over 7, so it's like an 8 pH water. So your tap water is already alkaline water. Yeah, there's contaminants you want to get out of it and stuff like that. So alkaline water is basically just water with buffering minerals added to it. So sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, different bicarbonates to raise the pH to make it shelf stable. So with these shelf stable chemicals, our body treats it like it has to metabolize this. So you drink alkaline water, well, your body has to process those chemicals and stuff like that. And it can be counterproductive, especially if you're eating while drinking alkaline water. So you're adding baking soda to an acidic environment that needs to digest. So to me, alkaline water is like a tonic. Say I ate a really acidic pizza last night and I'm feeling kind of lagged, right? Well, I'm probably in an acidic buildup. And when I drink that alkaline water, I can have some buffering, like good feelings from that. Okay. But with, it's just a created industry. So the ionized water was first and they're like, oh man, how else can we market water? So, hey, there seems to be a growing trend in alkalized water. So alkalized water is just like electricity in action's been done to it. So, hey, well, let's create this alkaline water, and then they just blew it up, right? With sponsorships and, Mark Wahlberg and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So to me, it's a tonic. Purchase it if you want to, but don't make it irregular. I had heard from some scientists that said if you drink it on the regular, you actually can build up those minerals in your system and potentially raise your pH of your blood, that's like really bad. It's supposed to be 7.365 all the time. So if you're chugging the alkaline water, I would just have that warning for it. Treat it like a tonic. Like that's not your only water.
That's wonderful information. Thank you for that. That's very valuable to know, especially the reverse osmosis too, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that just get the general idea that reverse osmosis means it's like a really high quality water. So thank you for clarifying that. That is super valuable.
Yeah, water's a very confusing world. The more I get into it, I'm just like, all right. But yeah. Hey, we get our choice. We're Americans. We make our choice. We get our choice to move forward. And, it's not for everybody. Some people love their RO systems, and I don't want to be against the RO systems. They definitely have their space to be used. So like that's me. Like water, I'm not really against anything, right? But I stand for what I like. So
exactly.
I have a quote from Matsuru Emoto. If you don't know Matsuru Emoto, he was able to freeze crystals of water and show that our intentions had an effect on that water. One of my favorite quotes by him. It's huge. It's just simple and simplicity. And he's not even a doctor. He's a scientist that like, I need to do this. And then he shifted everybody's thought on what science was. So now they include the observer for the experiments. So before they didn't include the observer being part of the experiment. Well, now after his research is saying, if you're an observer, if you're sitting there with a clipboard and you're like documenting, like you are impacting this experiment. And so that's just a fascinating thing, because literally all these experiments in the past, they could be devoid. They could be false. They could be false readers because the observer was never a factor in the final result. So that's kind of what he kind of pushed this paradigm shift of the whole medical profession. And he says here, we must pay respect to the water and feel love and gratitude and receive vibrations with a positive attitude. Then water changes, you change, and I change, because both you and I are water. This guy knows.
Like Bruce Lee says, be water, my friends. Be water. Wow. Alex, this has been a beautiful podcast. And what do you know? We said around a half hour, and we divinely flowed in a beautiful flow for over an hour. And it's felt like it hasn't been that long. Wow.
So true.
Thank you, Alex, for being here. Thank you for your journey, your path. and your experiences with this beautiful element of creation that is within basically all fabrics of this material world that we're experiencing, and that is the element of water. So many beautiful gems and golden nuggets throughout this podcast for all of you to be able to learn the science, the metaphysics, the consciousness, the spiritual aspect, as well as the physical when it comes to water and the consciousness of water and our relationship with water. And along with that, you also get to learn some insight into what to look for in your water, how the water structures, the difference between dead water and living water. And you get to hear wonderful testimonies as well from Alex himself, and a wonderful story about his partner and his wife and what she has overcome due to the rebalancing of beautiful water that they have come across in their life. And with that being said, you guys can also be a part of this water journey that they are embarking upon with what it is that Alex is involved with. And Alex, if you would like to, as we close out here tonight, where can people reach out to you on any of your platforms? And also, what can they become part of and become active in with what you do and what you share? I think you have classes that you do. I'm not sure. I believe you do master classes or something like that. Mm-hmm. So where can people find you, and how can they participate and be a part of this water movement? And anything else that you would like to share for the collective to be able to dial in and be able to connect?
Of course, yeah. I'm super passionate about water, and just the water and systems I've come across, and the manufacturer that makes them have added to that passion, because they dive into compassion is a cornerstone of their business, and they're really environmental focused. So I'm just fortunate to find the company and the product that helped me push my consciousness forward, and then help other people in whatever parts of their journey. I guess you can probably just reach me at embodywwater.com. I have a link tree, EMBODYWATER, embodywwater.com. And that provides links on how to get in touch with me, or like contact information, stuff like that. My wife and I do this full time, and for people all over the world. And really like rediscover that passion, like health. We have quite a few chronic disease clients, but then we have a lot of people that are on like the giving side, the distributor side, like sharing the information. It's really this wide trend of movement within this company, because when I get to authentically share something that I've gone through and that you resonate with, you can take ownership of whatever piece of that you want and then incorporate it into your own life. And I don't know what has been more powerful than this system and then this company tied with like the heart and the head together to really shift the whole landscape of even poor and rich. So this company is really steeped in rags to riches story, because it's all about the people in the grit. It's all about people that desire the change. This isn't for the rich people. Like, yes, sure, you can afford it, whatever, but this is a technology that serves all of humanity. And I really get, worked up about the state of business these days. And I get to be part of that shift in business, where I can do business the way that serves my client to the most. And I get to go the extra mile with not getting a pat on the back by my manager. There's no manager, maybe my wife a little bit. But you get to your pat on the back comes from your contribution to humanity. And that's just been huge. It keeps unfolding with each person, their story and their struggle, and they're like, I had no idea. And then you see their mind expand, and you get to be part of that. And that's really what my business is about. It's very much like water. Hey, I'm here as a resource. This stuff is already edified as a technology. It's been in hospitals. It's been going on for 50, 60 years. So really, it's just fielding how you feel about it and starting a discussion on how you feel about water and what you want water to do in your life. It's as simple as that. Just taking the next step forward and creating a conversation.
Wonderful. Well said, brother. Thank you so much. And for everybody out there, you guys can also access Alex's Linktree, and it's Linktree, and then it's / embody water. And then as I'm looking here now on the Linktree, it looks like you guys can watch a masterclass video, and then also have access to the water device, as well as affiliate opportunity, a discovery call, and a checkout link as well. Those are all available on his Linktree, which I will put down below in the description for you guys. So you guys will have access directly to his Linktree, as well as his website, embodywater.com, and anything else that is available for you guys. Alex, brother man, thank you.
And if you're in the area of Cincinnati, I can always drop you off water for you to try it too.
Yes, that's amazing. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much for this time, Marcus. It's really special.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor. And I just want to say really good job. And I'm just really happy I was able to provide this space for you and give you this platform to have your first ever podcast.
Thanks.
All right, Alex. You have a blessed and beautiful night. Thank you for joining us on this Sacred Light conversation as we talked about the consciousness of water, as well as developing a conscious relationship with water. You guys can watch this on YouTube, Sacred Light Healing and Wellness, and there'll be highlights and clips on Instagram and Facebook as well available. And you guys will be able to leave any feedback or comments down below, and we appreciate any feedback or comments. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment them or reach out, and I'm sure either one of us will answer to the best of our abilities for you. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for all support, and I appreciate all the love that I've received along this journey. Wholeness and balanced love. Have a blessed and beautiful day.